Welcome back to the channel. Today what I'm going to be talking about is the death of bodybuilding. And the reason I'm talking about that is because, at least for me, bodybuilding has lost its appeal as far as health and fitness is concerned. I'm sitting around and I'm trying to think of something to talk about the fitness industry, but I can't find really anything about bodybuilding as far as fitness is concerned to really talk about, because bodybuilding is perhaps the most unhealthy activity that a human can be involved in. It has nothing to do with health and fitness, nothing at all. I mean, a lot of you all think that I'm bashing on bodybuilding all the time, that that I hate bodybuilding or I got something against bodybuilders, and like a lot of you, I was a regular watcher of the fitness thing. I mean, I was watching bodybuilding when there was no internet to watch it on. The only way that I could see what was going on in bodybuilding were in the magazines. The magazines, looking at the magazines and keeping up with what was going on. After the competition, you have to wait so many months before the printout comes out, because they're doing their photo shoots and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I got boxes of magazines, back in the days that I used to look through all the time. Now, the only value that bodybuilding has to me these days, and it really doesn't have a value to me now for even that, is the performance of the exercises, the correct way of doing exercises. And that's pretty much it. Because the diets that they use to get their bodies to look the way they do during competition time is so unhealthy until it doesn't even resemble anything that's even close to being healthy. So you can't use that. That's just something that you can't use. But it's dead. Bodybuilding is just a dead activity, and it's not a sport. There's no competition from one person to another one. There's no competition at all. No physical output, besting another person in this particular activity. So it can't be called a sport. Even though it's called a sport, it can't be. They want it to be called a sport, and the only reason the industry wanted it to be called a sport is so that they can get mainstream television appearances. But the only thing that they are really selling and advocating is the use of drugs to get these bodies. Because the average person can't look like that. So that would be the only appeal for mainstream television. That's why they want to call it a sport. That's why they want to make it a sport. But that's the one reason why it hasn't been called a sport. It's simply because of the incredible amount of drug use. You look at the Olympics and all that. A lot of the drug use is in that, but it's a competition. It's a competition of physical output of people, one against another one, and that's where the sport come in at. Bodybuilding, it doesn't have that. It's subjective. It's a beauty pageant. It's about what judge like what. What's more appealing to this judge may not be appealing to that judge. So it's all subjective. Everybody got their opinion on who have the best lines, the best detail, all this other stuff. And don't get me wrong, like I said, I was a fan of Arnold, Franco Columbu, Frank Zane. You know, all of those bodybuilders, Ronnie Coleman, you know, but for some reason, when I think things about Ronnie Coleman, people think I'm bashing the guy. When I have, you know, I watch this guy. I got this guy DVDs because I like the way this guy works out. You know what I'm saying? I like the guy. Don't get me wrong. Flex Wheeler. It's Dorian Yates. It's so many bodybuilders. Lee Haney. You know, I like I said, I watched all of them. But I watched all of them back in the days in the belief that these guys was natural. These guys were in an era where I was young enough and naive enough to really not know a lot about fitness. So fitness is new to you. You know, it's something new, you know, back then for me. So whatever they said, you believe because you didn't know any better. You didn't know anything about, you know, steroids or how they do. And even back then, a lot of them, you know, really didn't know a lot about steroids. They didn't know about them, you know. Sean Ray, you know, he was one of the first ones when they started talking about testing for steroids and stuff like that. He was one of the first ones to get caught using it because they didn't know how to have the drug to clear their systems before being tested, even though they were told ahead of time that they were being tested. So, you know, back then it was experimentation. But it's always experimentation when it comes down to bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is not a natural state of being. It's a science project. And in other words, it's a competition against the best science project. That's it. Now, when I sit here, I'm sitting here drinking my coffee, watching the news as usual, you know, doing my thing early in the morning, and I'm trying to think of some type of topic to talk about bodybuilding, and I couldn't come up with nothing. I couldn't come up with nothing that was shine for me, you know. Anyway, I just couldn't come up with nothing. So that was the sad part about it. That particular activity, at least for me, is dead. You know, like I said, you know, I used it for learning how to perform the exercises the correct way. You know, and I don't need it for that anymore. So it really have no use for me besides if that's you looking at this guy, that guy. If you keeping it in context, you know, it's subjective. It's a subjective thing, and you watching these guys compete for this Mr. Olympia title or whatever, and you want to make a determination as to what you think the judges would say who's the best. But you got to keep it in that context. You know, it's not none of the diets to get like that is healthy at all. So that has nothing to do with fitness and health. Even though they got these magazine fitness and health, there's nothing healthy about the sport of bodybuilding as far as fitness and health. There's nothing healthy about it. It's a drug-induced activity. So, I mean, what can you really talk about with it? You know, and the thing about it is, you get a lot of people that they'll say again that I'm hating on these guys. You hate on these guys because you can't look like these guys. Anybody can look like they look if they spend the money and buy the drugs and take them. That's it. I work out just as hard as anybody else. I don't care who it is. You know what I'm saying? You know, look at my videos. You can see I do what I do. Now, the thing about it is, I don't want to look like that. I don't want to have to sit up and take drugs every day just to create this creation that's not real, that I can't keep. Because once the money ran out or I stopped using the drugs, all the gains that I have is gone. And then I got the health problems of to deal with afterwards. You know, that's not attractive to me. You know what I mean? It's hard enough to try to stay healthy naturally, rather than doing something to help yourself be unhealthy. So it's just one of those things. You know what I mean? But I just couldn't find nothing to really talk about. You know, you got the Mr. Olympia coming up. Sean Roden is it's not the greatest flagship Mr. Olympia. You know, simply because of his personality. Phil Heath, because of the physique he was able to develop, you know, was a flagship for a long time. But even his personality wasn't worth anything. You know, Lee Haney was probably one of the greatest. Lee Haney, Ronnie Coleman, just throwing out a few out there. They were some of the best ones with the personalities to go with the sport, that carried the sport. These guys are the ones that actually carried the sport with the personality, because you know, they are products. Like I said, they are products to sell this Mr. Olympia thing. They are products. So the better they are with people, the better the industry looks because of these people. And Phil Heath and Sean Roden are just not people. They're just not people. So, they naturally can't promote the industry like they would like to. But, they were the best of two evils at that particular time, And they probably never find anybody that was as flamboyant as Arnold was, because of the way he was. That's what really caused the forward momentum of bodybuilding, Arnold, because of his personality. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, he threw the movies in on top of it, which brought more interest to the sport of bodybuilding. But again, at the same time, nobody had any real clues about the use of drugs back then. Now, now they're trying to make the use of drugs be commonplace. And they're trying to make it be commonplace because if it doesn't become commonplace, it's not going to survive. It don't have that appeal, because people are looking down on that particular activity simply because of the drug usage. And the ones who want to believe that they can naturally look like these guys, and they're believing in what these guys say, but yet and still, no matter what type of regimen that they use, they're not accomplishing anything from it. Using what these guys use. So, anyway, that's why I say bodybuilding is dead. I mean, there's nothing to look forward to with it. It's dead. Bodybuilding is a graveyard right now, in my opinion. But anyway, that's what I want to talk to y'all about. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel. And again, I'll be talking to you later.